Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'd like to thank organizers and everyone who has contributed this excellent organization. Today I will be talking to you about remote working and how new technologies can help with remote working, especially after the COVID crisis. Now, I would like to start with just showing you my office. Here's how I work. I am in the middle of the forest. Again, it's the sea. And I have been working like this for the last 15 years or so. I've been managing a consortium. After teaching in the UK and in England at the universities, I set up my consultancy organization. And I have been working with more than 500 experts under an organization called Mobile Government Consortium International. These experts were all spread around the world. And we have not really met face to face. I have never met 80% of them, but we have made influential projects all together. We have been writing roadmaps and strategies for central governments, for the governments to offer services to citizens using mobile technologies. These projects were in Latin America, in Europe, and also in parts of the world such as Afghanistan. We got together for a project and we did the project and then we just spread out. And whenever we needed a certain special reports, we were able to connect to each other through remote connections using social media often and getting parts of this expertise through various reports. So remote working has been there for many, many years. For the last 20 years or so, everything started with bring your own device, using some flexible desk space in the organizations. But with the COVID and social distancing policies, there has been a fast acceleration in how people adopted remote working. Now, with the social distancing policies, when we were not able to go to the office, companies started to let people, more and more workers, to work at home. And this has helped many knowledge workers to learn new skills, such as collaboration tools and such as video conferencing tools that we are using now. Now, this has been, for the last 2 years or so, this has been a popular trend in the business world. But we are not very sure if this will stay with us after the COVID or not. And we are not sure how can we solve some of the challenges. So I'm gonna briefly go over, first of all, what are the reported benefits of remote working? There are basically 2 reported benefits of remote working. One of them is increase in productivity. Most of the organizations report that working from home has increased productivity. And the second benefit is cost savings. The average cost of providing office space to a worker is around $10,000 in the Western world. And by not having people coming to the office, companies have shrink their offices even, some of the companies, and have saved on these expenses. So given these positive reports and positive outcomes, are we really going to continue with this trend, or is remote working will stay with us after the COVID? There are a few challenges. I will report only 3 of them. First of all, what are we going to do with those people who are not knowledge workers? You know, knowledge workers can work from anywhere in the world, maybe if they have a connection with their computer and if they have a connection to their teammates or their organization. But how about those workers who need to be at the office, such as nurses at the workplace, such as field workers who has to go out and about and check for some of the industrial machines to work, or some of the facilities if there is any fault around? What are we going to do about this? The other important issue is when people are not coming to the office, it is not very easy to create a corporate culture. company culture is very important, especially for problem solving and also for creativity. You know, there is a very important example in the knowledge management domain. Once there has been an office, and in this office there was a narrow stairs, and at the top of the stairs there was a coffee machine. But because the stair was very narrow, people, when they want to get a coffee, they had to wait either at the bottom or at the top for the other person to go through. But the manager decided to widen the stairs. And this has resulted, first of all, preservation of the knowledge in the organization, because people were start to talk to each other while they are having a coffee. And it has also helped with problem solving, because people would ask each other, what are you doing? Oh, I am doing this, but I have this problem. And the other person would say, oh, you can solve this problem like this. This is what I have done. This is my experience. So problem solving has increased, and also creativity, because sometimes when people start working with each other, new ideas come. When people talk to each other, even though it's actually, I owe my PhD to Smokers Corner. At then, you know, there was Smokers Corner in the offices of the universities. When we were meeting with other colleagues in this little corner, we were talking about our PhD, and people were giving each other an ideas. Actually, we just wrote a paper together with other colleagues who have been meeting there. So these informal connections are very, very important for every organization, as you know. Now, the most important part of this is building trust. When people remotely working and they are not coming to the office, it is very difficult to build trust among the team members. And this lack of trust can lead to inefficiencies and also, you know, loss of problem-solving abilities, etc. So you know all these social issues probably, but let me talk to you about technology a little bit. Is there a way that technology can help to these challenges? As if you look into the market, you will see that there has been now new efforts to develop collaboration tools which are more intelligent. People can collaborate much easily, can work together, can manage projects together much easily with these intelligent tools, which are backed up by artificial intelligence. Now, these collaboration tools are also very important for the employers to observe the employee. You know, observation of employees has been around since the industrialization. So there is a reason for people coming to the office, because then you can observe if people are working or not working. Now, on the other side, there are now new tools in the virtual reality world where these collaboration tools backed up with virtual reality help you to feel that you are at the office and collaborating and working with other team members. These are also some new developments in the technology field. With Internet of Things, with these sensors in the facilities or in big companies, or for those people who are working in the field, with the Internet of Things, we don't now need to send all these field workers around, but they can say certain talks or certain faults, or say, for example, in a water pipe, if there's a water leak, this can be sensed and organized through intelligent control systems remotely. So these technologies can help. Now, the main idea, which is coming back again, before the industrialization, if you look at people were working for themselves, and the amount of the work that they produce would show how much they will be making for themselves. So their earnings were related to how much they are producing. With the remote working, the trend is coming back to this, and this will probably create new propagations in the working field, working paradigms. Because if people are working in the out of the offices, the idea is not to look at amount of the work that people are, not to look at amount of the time that people are spending at the offices, but look at how much they are productive. What are they producing? So this is an important paradigm that might be influencing the work after the COVID. Now, I want to finish off by presenting you one of the newest technologies called brain and machine interfaces. And I would like you to connect this to the remote working or working in general, actually. Now, brain and machine interfaces are those technologies that using some electrodes, either intrusive or non-intrusive, we can collect brain signals. And these brain signals can be used to control machines, such as a robot arm or a wheelchair, an intelligent wheelchair. And by doing this, we can have brain signals to control the machines, but also we can have signals sent back to the brains and control the owner of the brain. Now, this kind of research is being supported by DARPA, Defense Agency of the United States, in 12 universities at the moment around the world. Maybe the most familiar example that you may know is a Neurolink project of Elon Musk. Earlier, Elon Musk reported that there is a chip inserted in the brain of a pig, and this chip had more than 2,000 very, very tiny electrodes where you can collect signals from the brain, from the neurons. So this technology is the same as 20 years ago, but what he has done, he has been collecting data more than 2,000 neurons, but up until now, the highest number of data points collected from the brain neurons was about 100. Now, this is a revolution. Now, in the next report, Neurolink project has shown that you can actually control a monkey can actually control a video game and can play a video game using just brain signals. Maybe you have seen this on the reports. Now, these are important developments, but what is most important is that now at the University of Washington, there are experiments with human beings. In one of the recent examples, 3 human beings in separate locations, they don't see each other, they don't talk to each other, but their brains non-intrusively are connected to each other, their brain signals. One of these persons is in front of a video game, but that person doesn't know how to play that game. The other 2 persons, they know how to play the game, the rules of the game. And so those 2 people can direct the 3rd person to be able to play that game using only brain signals. This has important implications for the future of the work, and especially for remote working, and also for controlling remote devices. You can be anywhere in the world and you can control any fault operating sensor, for example, anywhere in the world. Say, in the middle of the sea, some petroleum facilities. Now, I would like to leave you with these inspirations, and I'm hoping that this can be useful, and wish everyone good luck. And thank you again to the organizer for giving me this opportunity. Ahmet, was that question to me?
Yes, it was for you, Professor.
Sorry,
you mentioned I can repeat again.
Go ahead, please.
Should I repeat again?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
You mentioned a paradigm at the end of your speech, productivity versus spending time at office.
Yes.
So this is kind of paradigm or conflict. Turkey, as a developing country, in my opinion, we have such problem in public companies, public administrations. So instead of producing something, you have to spend your time or somehow stay in the office instead of producing something. So how can we solve it? How it can be solved?
Yeah, thank you. Believe me, Japan has the same problem. We see that Japan is a developed country, but for my experience, 4 years in Japan, I have observed that this is a well-known fact, actually. If the boss is not leaving the company, the workers under him is not leaving the company. So in Tokyo, you would see all these lights on up to 10 p.m. or 12 p.m. only because the boss is there, but the guys are not really, or the girls are not really doing any work. It's just a custom. So the regulations are also very important, especially for the countries like us. Now, this is a very, very significant shift, because if you look at pre-industrialization, people were interested in production rather than the time spent at work, because people were working for themselves. With the mass production and with industrialization, people had to go to the factories, people had to go to the offices, and offices were also used as a monitoring place. If you look at some of the offices, hundreds of people are in one room, and it's so boring, but they have to be there because the boss is watching. But the things are changing. So we see flat organizations, for example. We see offices, especially with big techs, where you have all these playgrounds. You know, people have their balls and they have a basketball. They are doing little shots in there. You know, all these kinds of things are changing, and this will change. Maybe it is faster, for example, in Sweden, who is very famous with remote working, not only at the COVID time, but for the last maybe 20 years or so. There are so much, and their regulations are adapted to this kind of life. But in other countries, the regulations are still very slow. And so for the public organizations, and also for the private organizations, these regulations has to be in place, how to support that kind of paradigm where we look at not to the time that people spend at work, but to the production. What are they producing? Now, this is very similar to a revolution in the telecommunications world. In 2000s, 2001 and 2002 or 2003, while the whole world was using this paradigm when people connect to the telecom networks, people were charged when mobile networks are very new, and people were charged during the time they are connected to the internet by their mobile phones. But Japan has started something called iMode. They stopped charging people during the time. They just charged people for the downloading time. If they download the ringing tone, then they would pay money for this, and that created the whole revolution in the whole world. So this is again very similar to this new paradigm in the workplace, and I'm sure the public organizations will be very last to follow due to all regulations and bureaucracy and everything. I'm sure regulators will be a bit late to follow because of their bureaucracy and also because of the lack of expertise in the regulators. But it is possible that we might see a new move and paradigm in the working measurement and in looking at working attitudes.
Thank you very much.
Your question.
Yeah, thank you. I got it.
Welcome. I think there is one more question for me from Professor Erkan. Shall I answer this? Emre, you are muted.
Yeah, you can answer, please.
Okay. Now, this is an interesting question. The question is, for those of you who are planning brought technology into everyday life and work more and the work more than before, can we help? Is there any help to prevent this to turn into a dystopia? This is for us, artificial intelligence experts and technology. For people working in the technology field, it's a very critical topic. There are people like me who are very critical about technology. I am very critical about technology. I devoted my life to use technology to improve the people's quality of life, and how we can help people to improve their lives, especially underserved communities, you know, disabled, remote people living in the remote areas, and people with low education and low income, etc. But on the other hand, there are lots of competition to these kind of ideas and these kind of efforts. For example, big giants are, tech giants. I'm talking about Google and Facebook and similar, or Amazon. They naturally, their aim is to make profit. And although they are social responsible, they seem to be social responsible, it's not very easy for them to be socially responsible in every aspect that we would like. For example, we would like sustainability. It is very important, sustainable development goals of the UN. It is very important that these technologies are focused on underserved communities, to those parts of the world where people are actually in need of technology. But unfortunately, there are two things that is determining now how these new technologies are developing and how this could either lead to dystopia or not dystopia. One of them is ownership. And ownership is about technology. Who is owning the newest technologies? It is the developing world. It is the big tech giants. And the memory of this, especially for artificial intelligence. For artificial intelligence, memory is the data. Who is holding the data? Again, developing world and the big tech giants. Now, these two things, if we cannot change and create equality in terms of ownership and memory of data, it is highly likely possible that we will go to a dystopia, but a dystopia not in the sense of Terminator, not the robots dominating the world, but there are other ways. For example, trans-intelligence, where biological people and mechanical people combine, and then there's a trans-intelligence, where these all IoT devices, Internet of Things, where they get so complex, talking to each other, that we don't know what kind of results will come out of this dynamical world. These are issues that to discuss a bit more, but just briefly, I can mention these things. So it is important that countries like us spend, I'm talking about me being Turkish originally, my company's in the UK, but I'm Turkish. So countries like us have to spend a lot of effort to take part in the ownership of the technology and also in ownership of the data around the world. So we have to work harder in order to prevent all this. And AI is one technology that, unlike other technologies, if we don't control, if we don't regulate this, and if you don't find the right policies for the benefit of the humanity, it might be very difficult to control later. The more that AI systems develop more and more, it is much harder to control how it will evolve in the future. But that's a very interesting question, Professor.
Thank you for your answer, Professor Dr. Ibrahim Kushchu. Do you have any more question? Okay, there is one more question.
Okay, is that Seda Hanım?
Yeah, Seda İşgüzar.
Okay, I have a question, Mr. Kushchu. What are the most important problems that can be encountered when integrating artificial intelligence? Well, this is a very general question. There are a number of issues. Let me just give a few titles, but if needed, I can provide further information. Seda Hanım, please get in touch with me, thenextminds.com. I will give you more information. But just to answer your question very briefly now, one of the first thing is that you have to make your organization ready. Is your organization ready to take on this new technology? By readiness, what we mean is, do you have sufficient skills and sufficient resources to take this technology and also sustain the technology? The key word is sustainability. To sustain the technology in your organization to serve your purposes for strategic or whatever your business objectives are. That's something very important. And this is not very easy, because people think that if you just receive this AI technologies, then you will be able to solve all of your business problems. That's not true. AI is not as good as it is hyped. AI is very good in the narrow domain. We call this narrow AI. All of the examples that you see are data-based, They are dependent on the data and they solve narrow problems. So they will be very good. The second thing is about the skills and expertise. Now, it is important to decide whether you want to do this in-house or using cloud services provided by Google or Amazon or Microsoft. If you are using cloud services, that you need to have a different strategy. And if you're gonna have an in-house production team and implementation team, it's a different different strategy. AI systems are not just once installed and once used systems. They need to be retrained by the time your problems change. So therefore, these are important issues. But if you need further information on this, please do get in touch with me. Just let me just finish here.
Thank you for your answer. We have any question?